What's up, guys? We are back again for another video. I'm Jones, and that's Jim. Today, we're going to do a video about our personal favorite athletes, as you can see in the title. We're doing a top 10 favorite athletes of all time, and that's personal to me, and it's personal to Jim. We're going to start at 10, and we're going to go back and forth with each other on the numbers there. And we didn't do no particular order. We did, 10 all the way down to 1 being our all-time favorite. So very excited. I have not seen Jim's list. I have not
haven't
peeked.
seen yours. We're starting with honorable mention, right?
Yeah, we're starting with honorable mention. Just one person for honorable mention. Then we'll go 10, 9, 8, all the way down to 1. So we're going to share screen so you guys can see our list. All right? Let's share some screens. Okay, so
We might as well start with you since yours is right there.
yeah. So I don't know why. I have just always loved this guy. I have always loved Phil Kessel. I remember when he got drafted by the Bruins way, way, way back in the day. And I just thought this guy was awesome. He's so slick. He has an amazing personality. He's so funny, very dry. Literally doesn't give a crap about anything, and he produces. And he looks like he's so out of shape and just looks kind of puffy, but the guy can skate really fast, and he can mix it up, and he's just an incredible hockey player that I think people forget. I always wanted him to be on the Flyers, and I don't think that's going to happen. He had a huge contract with the Coyotes recently, but I just loved Phil Kessel.
Yeah, that's an awesome pick.
Yeah, let me get to Big Jim's.
All right, my honorable mention is from my favorite football team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Josh Allen, drafted in 2019, round 1. He actually fell to the Jaguars. I remember when we were watching that, we couldn't believe that he dropped to the Jags at 7 overall. And damn, was that a hell of a pickup because, I mean, he should have been Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, over Nick Bosa. He had better numbers than Bosa. He led the team in sacks with 10, broke a Jaguars rookie record. And I mean, he's a young guy. We actually met him. We went down to Jacksonville. Nice guy, very soft-spoken. He's someone who really has his life together. I mean, he's married. He's got 2 young kids. I mean, he's got a really good head on his shoulders. So he's definitely like a leader that I would like, young athletes to look up to. So, I mean, I really, respect him, and he just almost made my top 10 list.
Wow. And he's just a second-year player. That's incredible for all time, dude. All time.
All time, yeah.
I'm just going to scroll down from here to number 10 so you can start off the list.
Okay.
So I'm just going to scroll down, and I have not looked, so I have no idea. So this will be a surprise for myself and our audience.
All right, number 10, John Cappelletti.
Fair enough.
The only Heisman Trophy winner for Penn State Nittany Lions. He was drafted into the NFL in 1974. As you can see, in round 1, he was the 11th overall pick of the Rams.
Oh, okay.
Did not have a great pro career, obviously, because when you talk about John Cappelletti, you talk about his time at Penn State. But out of Penn State, I mean, you can't think of Penn State without him because he is the only Heisman Trophy winner. If you've ever seen the movie Something for Joey, it's his younger brother who was dying. He was sick, and he produced the hell of a season that he had, the Heisman Trophy winning season. Dedicated a lot of games to his brother, and at the end, he dedicated the Heisman Trophy to his younger brother.
Okay. I didn't know that much about him.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go to mine. So my number 10, I think it's going to shock you and most people, but I loved this guy when I was a little kid. Point guard Nick Van Exel. I don't know what it was. I just loved him because he was so undersized, and he was a lefty. I thought that was kind of cool. And I remember he played for the University of Cincinnati, and I don't know what it was. I don't know why I liked him. But when I was a kid, I liked the Sixers, but I also liked the Lakers. But now I'm just Sixers. But I liked the Lakers because of Van Exel. Then, of course, obviously someone else who came on that team. But I love Nick Van Exel. I remember he was drafted in 93, round 2, 37th overall to the Lakers. He had a pretty good career. I remember he got traded to the Denver Nuggets, and I was heartbroken. So I was like, whenever he was traded to the Nuggets, I was done. because I wasn't going to be a Nuggets fan. I was just strictly Sixers, and it's been that way. He's now an assistant coach for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool.
I didn't know much about Nick Van Exel. I've never heard you talk about him, so I was very surprised.
I have his champion jersey. I got it at Ocean City, Maryland, on the boardwalk. I have always loved this guy. I even got his shoes. I remember, and his shoes were awesome. They were white and black, and with it was white dominant with black circles. It was very cool looking shoe. I'd love to find it because I don't think I was a size 13 when I was 10. So I would love to find it. But yeah, Nick Van Exel. I loved him. Loved him. Okay. So we're going to go back to Jim's. We're going to scroll down as a surprise. Oh, wow. Look at that tongue.
Jordan. So I've never been a really big NBA fan, but, when I was younger.
I was as a young kid.
As a young kid, I mean, everyone looks up to Michael Jordan. I mean, the 3rd overall pick in the first round of the 84 draft. And, I mean, currently right now as we film this, there's only 2 more episodes of The Last Dance left.
I know, it's sad.
It's been a remarkable documentary just to see a little bit more into his life and the type of person that he was. And, I mean, even though, now as an adult I see, he wasn't a perfect person. He was just a fiery competitor who had his flaws. But I still respect the hell out of him. And, I mean, I had a Michael Jordan jersey as a kid. And, I mean, there was no way he wasn't going to be on this list for me somewhere because, I mean, everyone liked the Bulls in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Okay, my number 9, I love this guy. Big Mike Alstott.
Oh, nice.
I loved Mike Alstott. I wanted to be Mike Alstott. I remember my best buddy growing up, John, he would look like him because he got real beefy in high school and just had big shoulder pads, cowboy collar, the whole 9. And I played center, so he was a fullback. And he kind of reminded me of very miniature Mike Alstott, but just how he'd lower his shoulder and the big shoulder pads. But I remember watching this guy single-handedly beat my Eagles in the playoffs like 2 or 3 years in a row because the Bucks were so tough in the early 2000s. And this guy, I don't know how anyone would stop him. He was the biggest fullback I've ever seen. His arms were probably 22 inches around. He's humongous. And
he was awesome to watch.
Right, he was awesome. He didn't play a long time. I think fullbacks really take a lot of headshots with linebackers trying to provide an opening for their halfback. He didn't have a long career, but he had a very good career, and he's not forgotten. And I remember I didn't remember when he was drafted in '96. I just remember seeing footage of him on ESPN saying, "Oh my God, who is this Viking? Who's this guy? He's huge." No pun intended, Minnesota Vikings. I just couldn't believe how big he was. But yeah, loved him. Number 9. All right, Jim's number 8. God, I need a drum roll. I'm scared. Oh, Luke Scott. Okay.
So he was drafted in 2001 in the 9th round, 277th pick. I believe it was. God, I knew this too when I made this. I'm kind of fuzzy on which team he got drafted by. I may need to look it up while you're talking with yours. But when he was on the Orioles in the 2000s there, late 2000s, early 2010s, I was able myself to get to a lot of Orioles games and be really involved in the Orioles seasons and the players. And I always tend to like some obscure players on my favorite teams. I am an Orioles fan. And Luke Scott was just one of those guys that I really liked. He was a big power hitter, played left field. He played some first base. He was kind of a fan favorite because everyone would shout Luke when he would step up to bat. And he always kept this little black book where he would take notes of the at bat that he just had and then look back on them. So I always liked Luke Scott. It was kind of weird. I actually bought a Luke Scott jersey at Camden Yards.
Jersey.
A jersey, T-shirt.
Half shirt, half jersey. Love that name.
So,
did you just come up with that?
No. Jerseys have been used for a while.
Just so you know, he was drafted by the Cleveland Indians.
That's it, Cleveland Indians. Thank you for looking that up for me.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I mean, he even when he left the Orioles, I still followed him and was interested to see how he did. I know he went to the Rays directly after the Orioles, and then I believe he finished his career in the KBO actually. So,
oh gosh, Korean baseball.
Yeah, so Luke Scott, my number 8.
Love it. Okay. My number 8, sir, Mr. Dwyane Wade.
Nice.
I remember because I graduated high school in 2003, the year he was drafted. And I remember when I was in college, a lot of my like roommates or like neighbors in my dorm, we would like watch a lot of sports together. And we would always watch like the March Madness, we'd watch baseball, football, etc. But then I remember this guy was from Marquette University,
Marquette.
kind of a small no-name school, but always was decent, in the March Madness. But it's still a small school in Wisconsin. And I remember thinking, how would you ever spell Dwayne with a Y before the A? Because my dad's first name's Wayne, and I thought that was hilarious that the spelling was D-Y or D-W-Y-N-E. I was like, that's super strange. And I just thought the name is what caught me. And then I saw him play as a rookie with the Heat, and I was like, this guy is phenomenal. He reminded me if Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant had a child.
Wow.
He had a lot of tools that both of them possessed, and I always loved Dwyane Wade. I remember getting a reddish colored jersey of Dwyane Wade, and I wore it a lot in college. Probably try to impress chicks with my muscles, but I remember just having a jersey and wearing it a lot. I love Dwyane Wade.
Hey, Dwyane Wade, great guy.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jim's number 7.
Number 7.
Oh my God!
Gardner Minshew
Really?
III. Yeah, I mean, I've been taken over by Minshew mania. I know, just like Josh Allen, it's only his second year ever in the pros,
Oh boy!
but I am just a huge fan, and I think people are really sleeping on him being the franchise quarterback for at least the next decade for the Jaguars. He is the man.
We'll see.
And I mean, it seems kind of crazy of my all-time favorite athletes,
Yeah,
but really, I mean, you knew me this past year. I was crazy about the guy.
he's a lovable guy. How do you not love it? He reminds me of Brett Favre. If Brett Favre and Drew Brees had a child, that's how I take Gardner Minshew.
Well, he was drafted in the 6th round, 2019, same draft that Josh Allen was taken in, and honestly, I like what I saw. I mean, we saw him play in person. Saw him walk out of the stadium with his dad, Gardner Minshew the second.
The big boy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm just a big fan. This was the one that I knew I was going to get that type of reaction from you.
I mean, I like him, but I can't believe he's your all-time.
Number 7.
I mean, I would say like Mark Brunell would be in your all-time just because of the Jags.
No, Mark Brunell didn't make it. I do like Mark Brunell, but
Okay. Well, we already had honorable mention, so you can't add it now.
no.
Okay. All right. My number 7, Randy the Unit Johnson. This guy was lights out his whole career. Basically unhittable his whole career. I don't remember him playing much with the Expos, but I do remember him getting traded to the Seattle Mariners with the whole Ken Griffey and Jay Buhner years. The Edgar Martinez. Like, I remember he basically put Seattle on the map, right? Obviously, Ken Griffey put Seattle on the map, but this guy put it on the map for pitching. This guy was unhittable, extremely unhittable. And like every professional baseball player, especially lefties, I've heard on podcasts and like Sean Casey, former first baseman for the Reds, and also John Kruk for the Phillies, said that they were terrified to go against this guy because he was a lefty coming kind of sidearm, and if that ball goes out of control, it's going to hit the batter because it's coming kind of sidearm. And I just always loved and admired this guy. I obviously would love him for the Phillies. I think he could probably still pitch right now and probably beat out our 4th and 5th starter. I'm not even joking because our 4th and 5th starters are terrible. So just love this guy. Loved him. Drafted in 85 when I was born. It's crazy.
He played a long time too. Very long time.
Loved him. Okay, let's move past your 7 and let's go to number 6. Oh,
6.
Big fan.
A.J. Adam Jones, drafted by the Seattle Mariners, who we just talked about with Randy Johnson in the 1st round in 2003. And Adam Jones was kind of the leader through this whole current Orioles regime. I mean, they had their shot. I mean, they made it to the ALCS and they lost to the Royals that year that the Royals were really hot.
Hated it.
But I mean, him in center field, he was a staple there for over a decade. And I just loved watching him play, his attitude towards the city. He loved being in Baltimore. And unfortunately, when everything went to hell and they were imploding the team a couple of years ago, that meant sending him out. And so he played with Arizona for a year, and now he's playing in Japan. So I love AJ.
Yeah. And he had a good year with Arizona too. He did.
It's disappointing no one signed him.
Yeah. Do you remember that I had his jersey before we met?
Did have his jersey because it said Jones.
Yeah. I was like, I said, I remember when I first met you back in 2012. I said, dude, I'm a big Phillies fan, and I obviously I knew that you liked the Orioles. I said, I'm a really big Phillies fan, but I love Adam Jones. And I loved him so much I even got his jersey shirt. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And I proved it to you because we went to the Orioles game. Like oh my God, you did.
Yep. We saw him play some good games.
Yeah. We used to yell to him. He'd wave to us. All right. My number 6. Ooh, it's going to get dirty. Kobe the Mamba Bryant. What I loved about him is, like I said, when I was younger, I really liked Nick Van Exel. So I liked the Sixers. I was a big Sixers fan, but I also liked the Lakers because I just adored how Nick Van Exel played the point. But in 96, Van Exel has already played 3 seasons. Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion, Pennsylvania, not too far from here, about an hour and 45 minutes, was drafted. He was the first point guard drafted out of high school, which I thought was interesting. And he was picked up strictly on the basis of a trade. So the Lakers got in contact with the Hornets and said, if you just pick Kobe Bryant for us at 13, all right, we're automatically going to trade you Vlade Divac, like, okay, and then some other stipulations like that. And the Charlotte Hornets were like, okay, yeah, it's F our program, let's do it. Like, why would you not keep Kobe Bryant? So Kobe Bryant was drafted 13th overall, which is insane. Should have been first. Was drafted 13th overall in 96. He was 18 or 19 years old. And as soon as he was drafted, he was traded to the Lakers. And I remember I got so excited because I was like, oh, my God, him and Nick Van Exel. I thought that was amazing. And, of course, his career has been so illustrious, just amazing, and so sad that he died this year. His 20s been terrible. And I just loved watching him because he truly was the next MJ, in my opinion, not LeBron James, okay? I'm not even going there. I'm not a LeBron fan at all. But Kobe really was the next heir apparent to MJ, in my opinion. And, as you've seen recently watching The Last Dance, you got to see their meeting up in the 98 All-Star game and how Michael was so, giving to him, saying, hey, call me anytime you need, kind of like a big brother. So I really respected the two's relationship. But I loved Kobe as a kid. Loved Kobe. Thought he was so cool. And he was from Philly, so I thought that was really cool. Okay. Ooh, I'm excited and scared. Jim's number 5. Ooh, Scott.
Who I'm repping right now.
Mr.
Captain
Concussion
of
himself.
the New Jersey Devils. First-round pick, 5th
Scary
overall,
man.
1982.
Scary man.
And honestly, that picture there, him with a Stanley Cup, that was just one of the best things that I could think of. He was captain of 2 Stanley Cup teams in 2000, 2003. I know that you personally, as a Flyers fan, hate this man.
I respect the hell out of him, but I truly hated him. Like, I remember watching –
as a player.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I remember watching him destroy Lindros, and I cried. I literally cried as a child. I hated Scott Stevens, but God, do I respect him.
I mean, honestly, as a novice hockey fan, I mean, I'd say by the end of elementary school, early middle school, I didn't really have anyone in my family that watched hockey, but I kind of, I'd play video games, I get into it, and I was like, I want to root for a hockey team, and the Devils were good back then. So, I mean, I hopped on when they were good, and I got lucky to see them win 2 championships and almost won another against the Kings back in 2012. So, I mean, I as a Devils fan, I don't get to celebrate too much anymore, but back then, man, when early 2000s, they had a killer defense.
Oh, Scott Niedermeyer, and
Ken
Stevens.
Danico.
Oh my God, Ken Danico, number 3.
Yeah,
good player.
Scott Stevens has had his number retired as well in the rafters at at the Rock Prudential Center.
I can do that. All right. Now, going from 5 to 1, it gets pretty legit, I have to say. I had to really think about this, but these are some big ones. But these are my personal favorites. Number 5, Allen Iverson. I remember when he was drafted. I remember the day he was drafted. He was as fresh-faced and boy-next-door look I've ever seen. And then a couple years of fame, he had a ton of tattoos and cornrows. He, totally changed his look. But when he was drafted, he looked like a 5-year-old. He was super young-looking. And I remember my brother said, this guy also plays quarterback, and, he's legit. And I remember he was out of Georgetown. I was like, okay, Georgetown's a great school in D.C. there. I remember when he was drafted first overall, I was like, he's got a cool name. I remember when I was a little kid, the only thing that came to me was his last name is so different. I've never heard that last name. So that's going to be super memorable for buying his jersey or just remembering him, because his last name was so distinct. I never heard of Iverson anywhere else in sports. I can't name another Iverson.
No.
So I thought that was cool. But then watching him play, watching him show up Michael Jordan when he scored all those points on Jordan, I thought that was amazing. The guy had so much talent that I feel like he did waste a little bit, being a little too harsh with his ego and a little bit too rough with the media. He had a lot of things get in his way. He never won a title, the Sixers. He came close in 2000 against the Lakers, but he failed to do that. And then I remember he got traded or signed by the Detroit Pistons, and I was so upset. I remember I had his shoes, and I still have 2 pairs of his shoes to this day. I had the question ones and the other ones that were black and gold looking. I forget those. But I remember he was drafted in 96, first overall. Loved this man. Loved him. I loved his attitude, but he had a lot of shortcomings when it came to tolerance of media, and also his ego got pretty big. It really hurt him, I thought. All right. Jim's number 4.
All right, we go back to back Devils.
We have another problem.
Yeah.
I hate this man. Go ahead.
He just edged out Scott Stevens for me because I love Marty Brodeur as a Devils fan.
I think you should have omitted both of them.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Just because you hate the Devils. It's okay. It's okay. He literally was and could be considered the best goaltender of all time in NHL history. And I would tend to agree that I think he is the best. Marty Brodeur, he may have not been the nicest towards fans. I went to a game, and he everyone says he doesn't sign autographs. He's kind of a dick. But that was later in his career that he was like that, apparently. But he was the headliner back when they won the Stanley Cup in 2000 and 2003, and he almost won them one in 2011, like I said, with Scott Stevens, even though Stevens wasn't around on that team. So Marty Brodeur, he is now currently, I believe, an executive with the St. Louis Blues, if I'm correct.
No, you're right. I remember seeing that. You're right.
And he's still involved in the game that way and still considered one of the best.
I did like his helmet with the big J on top. Mm-hmm. Right there above his eye, above his forehead. I always thought that was kind of cool, but I hated Marty Brodeur. Hated him. I got to see him play too. I went to a Flyers Devils game years ago when I was in school. I went with my roommates from college, and I remember we crapped all over Brodeur. We were sitting many rows back, but I'm sure he heard us. We had a lot of beer in us. I was yelling at him. I said I hated him.
Well, he was used to it going to Philly.
Yeah. Wow. But I respected him. Okay. Very cool. Number 4. This was a tough one. Mr. Chase Utley.
You want to go play catch with him?
Oh, God, I'd love to. Harry Callis, the late, great Harry Callis, the commentator for the Phillies for all those years, loved this man. And I remember every time he'd do something great, he would always say, Chase Utley. And the way he said it, I loved it. I always would rewind it just to hear him say that, especially after he passed away. I wanted to listen to it all the time. But this guy was actually drafted in 97 out of high school, round 2, pick 76 by the Dodgers, but he did not sign because he wanted to go to college. Thank God for us, because he committed to UCLA, the Bruins in Los Angeles. And he played there for 4 years, got his degree. Then he was drafted in 2000, 15th overall by the Phillies. And I just loved this guy. I remember I got his autograph. I don't think he spent any time with Reading. I think he was like A ball to AAA, if I have that right.
Okay.
He went from A ball to AAA, which at the time was Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Barons in Pennsylvania. And my dad and I, we drove up there just so we could get his autograph and meet him, et cetera, because he was going to be called up, very soon. So I remember I met him. He was super, super nice, super, super quiet, and just total professional, very cerebral, very focused. And this is my favorite Philly of all time. I loved him. My favorite Philadelphia Philly, I should say.
Yeah.
But I just love this guy to death. Loved him. He did so much for our 2008 World Series, made incredible
World
plays.
champion.
What? Yeah. World effing champions. I'm pretty sure Chase had a few beers in him that day after the parade, which I was at. I did go to that parade.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did. With my buddy Bryant I grew up with. Yeah, we had a great time. All right, number 4. Okay. I'm scared to say this better not be another devil. We're done. Number 3, Jim. Ooh, Pocket Hercules. Love it.
Pocket Hercules. Maurice Jones-Drew.
Well done, sir.
Mighty
I like
Mountain.
your pick.
I love Maurice Jones-Drew. I mean,
Same.
you got to love the way that he played. He always played with that chip on his shoulder. You can see he was drafted in the second round, 60th overall. He wore that number 32 because all 32 teams passed on him in the first round.
Oh, is that the reason?
That's the reason why he chose 32.
I love those little tidbits.
Yeah, and so he was in the same draft as Mercedes Lewis. They were both college teammates at UCLA as well. So that was a heck of a draft there in 2006.
Nice job, sir.
Maurice Jones-Drew, who you and I both met, got our pictures with. He autographed my jersey. It's framed back there with a picture of me and him. We met him at the Philly draft in 2017. Nice guy.
Super nice.
I mean, and honestly, I just loved watching him play. And when him and Fred Taylor were both there in the backfield, that was a hell of a 1-2 punch.
Freddie T. Yeah.
We met Fred Taylor too, actually.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew. Maurice Jones-Drew definitely is my favorite. I mean, I was in high school and end of high school into college years when he played for the Jags in his prime, and he was just a ton of fun to watch.
Awesome. Okay. I agree. He was cool. My number 3, MJ.
Ooh, there he is again.
Yep, MJ. I mean, I just, how do you go against this guy? Like, when I was a kid, he was like the first thing I ever remember watching of basketball. I remember watching Charles Barkley with the Sixers, and then MJ with the Bulls. I remember my brother saying, like, MJ's like the greatest, and my brother's older than me, so I would listen to everything he said practically. He was like my hero as a kid. So I would always want to watch the Bulls, and I never knew where they were from. I didn't know where Chicago was. I was so young. I thought Chicago was in Pennsylvania. I was like, can we go see them? It's like, yeah, it's like a 15-hour drive. I'm like, never mind. But there's nothing else you can say about this guy. He's the greatest of all time. I don't want to hear anything about it. He's the greatest of all time, pound for pound in any sport. He's the greatest.
Wow.
With The Last Dance, you are seeing his tenacity and his competitiveness and why he was so tough. He demanded excellence, and he pushed you till you got better. I respect that as a leader of your team. Sometimes it can come off a little averse and a little threatening, but whatever. If that makes you win, then okay. Like Al Davis said, just win, baby. Like, sorry, but he's the greatest of all time. He has what I think is funny about him, as you saw in The Last Dance, he wanted Adidas to pick up a sneaker for him. He wanted to go with the line of Adidas. He loved Adidas because of UNC. Well, when that didn't work, Adidas couldn't do that. Nike was, parade him all around Nike saying, hey, we'll take care of this. He wasn't big on it. His mom pushed him to do it, and he listened, and look what happened. The rest is history. But I'll tell you a fun thing about Jordan. So the Jordan 1s, I'm a big shoe guy. I have a pair of the Jordan. I actually have 4 or 5 different pairs of the Jordan 1s. But I have the original colorway. It was the red, the white, and the black. And still to this day.
The one that he wore in that episode, right?
Right. He wore that in 85. Now, what I'll say about that shoe, I'm going to say this also. It's the GOAT of all shoes. The Air Jordan 1 is the greatest shoe of all time. Get ready for this. It's also the most uncomfortable shoe you will ever wear in your life. When I wear it, I feel like I'm wearing like old like roller skates that have no bottom to them, and there's nothing but just blisters waiting, like big, big popping blisters. The most uncomfortable shoe in the history of basketball or the world, but they're the greatest shoes of all time because they started a whole trend, you know. But horrible shoes, horrible, as in comfort. Ooh, number 2, Cal Ripken.
Cal Ripken Jr., the reason me and probably millions of other people that are Orioles fans are Orioles fans. I mean, he redefined the game with consecutive games. I mean, that's when he broke Lou Gehrig's record there of 2,100.
That was
And
1995, right?
I think it may have been later than that, but
I think it was the fall of 95 because I remember I was in 5th grade.
was it 95? Okay.
Yeah, it was the fall of 95 because I was in 5th grade in the fall of 95 into 96. I remember that real well.
Okay. I remember I got to see Cal play like 3 times in my life, but 2 of them I was so young I don't even remember. But I remember we did go his final season in 2001. It was actually like it was a month before September 11th. That's what I remember.
Wow.
It was Cal Ripken's birthday in August, I believe, and my family, we all went there, and they had like a big fireworks celebration because they knew it was his last year and he was retiring. It was just a big celebration of his life as a baseball player. And I mean, still to this day, he contributes so much to Little League, the Orioles as well. I mean, he's the Iron Man. I mean, how many consecutive games by the end of it, I forget. It was in the 2000s still, but he was definitely a legend and still is a legend in Baltimore.
Yeah, I always pictured him being a manager or coach, and that never really happened.
No,
I thought
he kind of like took over the Ripken Foundation. He started the Ripken
yeah.
Foundation and really just went from there.
Yeah. Now, remind me, he started at shortstop, but then he went to third base?
He went to third base then because of Miguel Tejada.
He was a good player.
Yeah.
All right, my number 2. Good call, sir.
Yeah.
My number 2. Ooh. This guy was so dominant and just a different level player. I was infatuated with this guy. I bought his book. I bought many jerseys, sweatshirts, T-shirts. Mr. Eric Lindros.
Even after
I was obsessed with this guy. This was like the first, like, besides Michael Jordan, this was like the first athlete I ever heard of. I was like 6 years old. And I remember my brother and my dad boasted about this guy because he refused to sign with the Nordiques. He refused. He was going to not play because he hated the owner. Not Quebec, not the people. He hated the owner. And I remember that he was drafted in 91. He said, if you draft him, we're going to sit out. I'm just going to play for another team, like in the Canadian Hockey League. So he played with the Oshawa Generals for a whole year, even though he was drafted by the Nordiques. A year later, the Flyers sent 5 players plus the first-round pick in 92, 7th overall, to get Lindros. And I remember my dad and my brother went nuts. And I remember I heard them yelling during the NHL draft, all pumped up. And I was probably not doing much of anything. I ran down. I was like, oh, what happened? And my brother and my dad's like, we just got Eric Lindros in a huge trade. I was like, who's that? And they showed me all the videos. I was like, oh, my God. I said, look how big he is. I said, he's not a defenseman? No, he's a center. And he's going to – or a right wing. And he's going to play like no one's business. And I just remember thinking, this guy has to be awesome. I'm going to double-check real quick with Lindros. I want to make sure he was drafted. Yeah, he was drafted first overall. Let me fix that. That is not correct. I thought I was wrong there. And I was. He was drafted first overall. I don't know why I made that mistake. But, yeah, he was drafted first overall. And I had everything of him. I had 3 jerseys of him. I had T-shirts. I had sweatshirts. I had, like, crew fleece, like, pullovers. I had hats. I had his book. I had everything. When I was a kid, I memorized his birthday. Like, if I remember right, it's February 28th, 1973. I'm not even kidding. Like, I adored him. I got to see him play twice in my whole life. We didn't really go to the big games. It was very expensive. We didn't have a lot of money. So I didn't really get to go to, like, Philly to watch him. But I got to see him once in Philly, and I got to see him once in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So
wow.
back in 92, 93, Hershey Bears were affiliate to the Flyers. Now they're affiliate to the Capitals. And before the Capitals and after the Flyers, it was the Colorado Avalanche.
Mhm.
So when he was drafted by the Flyers, they had an exhibition game where the Bears were going to play the affiliate of the Washington Capitals, the Baltimore Skipjacks. And after the game, they're going to play another game at nighttime with the Flyers and Capitals in Hershey at the Hershey Park Arena, the old barn. And I remember like the Bears game was at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then if you bought these tickets, you could stay to watch the Flyers and Capitals play an exhibition game. It didn't count. I remember my dad did everything he could to get these tickets, and he did. Like my dad was amazing at this. He got the tickets for my brother and I and himself, and we went. We were in Hershey like all day. We got there like 12. I don't think we left till like 11 o'clock at night. But I remember I got to see Lindros play before he ever played for the Flyers, like in Philly. I got to see his legit first game wearing the Flyers jersey. So I
Very
always
cool.
thought that was amazing. And dude, I love this man to death. Loved him. Loved him.
All right, number one.
Excited.
Wait,
Tim's
wait.
number one.
I was gonna say you want to guess, but you just saw it. So it's
No, it's okay. That's okay.
Kyle
What's your
Brady.
favorite?
So he is my favorite athlete of all time. When I was a kid, he's a local guy. The reason I'm a Jaguars fan, and really, I mean, I wouldn't give two rats ass about the Jaguars if it wasn't for me liking him as a young impressionable, kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was drafted by the Jets, first round out of Penn State. And then I believe he got traded or he got released by the Jets. I can't remember how he actually got to Jacksonville, but when I started, you know, looking up to him, he was already in Jacksonville. And so I was like, oh, I like the Jaguars. And I literally have just stuck with them. And, I've met him a couple times in my life. I did tell him the last time I saw him, I think it was 2014, I said, you're the reason I'm a Jags fan. So you're the reason that I suffer every football season. And he laughed and got a chuckle out of that.
He's like, all right, buzz off, kid.
He's huge, by the way. He's humongous.
Yeah.
But he actually lives down in Jacksonville still. When we went down there, people said that because people were like, you're from Pennsylvania, you're a Jaguars fan? Why? And so
Because your local resident, Kyle Timothy Michael Brady.
those may be his middle names. He may have two.
Now, I have a question for you. If there was no Kyle Brady, okay,
Uh-huh.
or if he was whatever, who do you think your NFL team would have been if it was all natural, just growing up?
I mean, it probably would have been one of the three that's close to us, either the Eagles, Steelers, or Ravens, honestly.
I think Eagles for you because your mom's a big Eagles fan.
She wasn't always a big Eagles fan. Like growing up, like my dad didn't really have like a big affiliation. He was kind of like he rooted for both PA teams, and my mom wasn't as big of an Eagles fan back then as she is now. So
Fair enough.
it may have happened with the Eagles for sure. And I
Yeah.
mean, but it's like I don't like dislike the Eagles. I root for them all the time with
Yeah.
you and family members that all like them. But
Mhm.
yeah, without him, Jaguars would have not been anything to me. So
Wow.
that's why he is my number one.
He's a big boy.
I have a guess to who your number one is, and I think I 100% know who it is.
I'm sure you do. My number one all-time favorite player, just a phenomenal human being, Mr. Brian
So I thought,
Dawkins. I love this man so much. I remember when he was drafted, he wasn't talked about as much as he should have been. He came out of Clemson. He was a lethal weapon in the secondary. He was a strong safety, the strongest ever to play the game. He had the biggest biceps, biggest body, biggest frame for a safety, and he had the smoke screen that covered his eyes on his helmet. That let me, as you can see in the picture, look at that. Imagine that coming 4.3 40 right at your face with
terrifying.
muscles. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. When I met him one time. Every year, I went with my roommate, Eddie, from college to go see the training camp in Lehigh, Pennsylvania. It was, Bethlehem, but it was in Lehigh University's campus. And they're not there anymore. They just train at NovaCare Center in Philly. I hate it. You get up close and personal, all your favorite players on the Eagles in Lehigh. It was very accessible. So the last year he was with the Eagles before he moved on to the Broncos was like 07, 08. And I remember I went to training camp that year with my buddy, and I said, I don't think Dawkins is going to be re-signed. He wasn't going to be. It was pretty well known that he was going to move on after this pending year. So I remember I saw him. I was like, oh my God. I said, I have to meet him. I have to meet him. Like, I don't care what, I'll run on the field. I'll get killed. But I just want to shake his hand and say I met him and talk to him. So after practice, a lot of players were signing for everybody. Well, Dawkins wasn't doing that. Not that he's a bad guy. He was signing for some type of special group that were secluded from everybody. It was behind like gates and you know, tape and stuff. You can't go past it. Like, do not enter. And I said, F that. Like, I don't care what I have to do. So I said to my buddy, I said, hey, can you just, you know, do you think I can go underneath this tape here and just go see him? He goes, dude, do it. You don't have anything to lose. I was like, well, I could go to jail. He's like, no, you're not going to go to jail. So I remember I ran over with my Dawkins jersey on, and I remember I had a Dawkins jersey on only, no shirt underneath. It was the old Reebok one, was very loose. I love that. And I also had just black shorts on and like sneakers. I ran over to this little tent area where he's signing for this group. I didn't know what the group was. Well, as soon as I got there, it was a Special Olympics group. And I ran away and go, oh my God. I was like, this is terrible. I was like, I shouldn't be here. Because it's all the parents kind of standing 5-6 feet back from their kids that were getting autographs and pictures with Dawkins. So I said, well, I gotta when in Rome. So,
Oh my God.
so the parents were getting a little bit closer to their kids. So I felt like I could pretend like I was a parent, right? So I'm like 20 or I'm like 22. So I didn't look like a parent, even though I could have been, but I didn't look like one. So there's no way I could have got up to Dawkins real close. So I literally took my jersey off, standing shirtless next to children with the jersey in my hand, and I was trying to reach real far. I reached over special needs kids.
Oh my
So
God.
I know. I was young. I had a black Sharpie marker, and I had his jersey, and he was going to sign the back of it. I wanted to sign the back of the jersey, either on the 2 or the 0, didn't matter. So I'm like, trying to be real calm and not make anything about myself. So he's not like, what are you doing here? And he never looked up at me, thank God. And I gave him the jersey, and out of all things I could have asked him, all I go is, Mr. Dawkins, how did you get your arms so big? Like, that's all I said to him. And that's all I said to him. And he's signing, and I remember he kind of stops. And he looks up at me. I'm like, oh, crap. He's going to yell at me because I'm not like special needs kid. And he didn't. All he goes is, hard work, player. I'm like, oh, my God. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I was like, that's so cool. I was like, yeah, hard work. Yeah, get in the gym. What am I thinking? And he gave me my jersey. And I literally sprinted away from there because I think the parents caught on like what I was doing. I think they thought I was a dad to one of the kids. And I didn't. I handed him the jersey for the kid, which would have been my alibi. As soon as I got that, I sprinted. I think I was crying. I really was, because I love this man so much. I was crying with so much joy. And I remember I jumped into my roommate's arms. I'm like, dude, I did it. And he's like, Jones, you're an idiot. I can't believe you did that. So that's my story. But I just
signed.
What?
Did you get your jersey signed?
Yeah. He signed the number 2 on the back. Yep. I still have it. My brother framed it for me too. I still have it.
That's right. It is framed.
Yep. So that's my story. But dude, I love.
Never heard that.
Yeah, that's a true story. 2007 or 8. I think it was 2008 maybe.
Wow.
No, probably no. 2007. But yeah. But anyway, that's our list, and that was.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, that was super fun. We got a lot more ideas coming ahead, and I look forward to doing more videos, obviously, with you and just whatever topic we decide. But
real quick before we end, what was the biggest surprise from my list?
Minshew.
Okay, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
What was the biggest surprise from my list?
Your number 10, the Lakers guy,
Yeah,
man.
Love him.
I've never heard you talk about him ever.
Yep, he played. He wore number 31 for Cincinnati when he was in college, and he wore number 9 with the this Lakers. I loved him. I did. All right, man. Well, it was good chatting with you. And obviously, if you guys liked our list or didn't like our list, don't matter. Just maybe give us a little like or leave some comments about your list. That's fine with us. We'll definitely respond. But yeah, this was fun, man.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'll see you.
All right, see ya.
Bye.